So now let's take a look at the application that we're building. We're building a metadata generator application with the help of React. In this particular project, you'll be learning about React. You'll be learning about how to manage state with React. You'll be learning about how to use different sorts of hooks. For example, the use effect hook and some other hooks. As well as you'll certainly learn about certain good practices when trying to develop any application. So this is the meta type generator that we're building. So you might be able to see that this is the metadata at the moment, which is nothing but an empty title, empty name, description, and all the other fields. Now, what if I do that? I just try to enter some data inside this. For example, let's select any site. For example, we can select unsplash.com and copy the URL that's right over here. So the website's name is unsplash. Unsplash. And the website address is https://unsplash.com. Now, the metadata that we want on the site is that this is a free image sharing platform. Now, certain keywords, we can put a photograph, website logo, we can copy the logo, and author's name, maybe Unsplash. Alright, now if I just scroll down, you might be able to see that we're having this title with the name Unsplash, some metadata, as well as link tags that are going to give us the canonical link. So this is the application that we're building with the help of React.
So now we'll be creating our application, but there are certain prerequisites that need to be followed before we can create one. And those are namely, you need to have Node.js installed on your systems, which I'm going to presume that you already have. But if you don't, then download it from the official website, their long-term support. At the time of recording this video, we are on version 16.14.0. Now to check or not whether you have a node installed on the system, just open up your command prompt and run the command node with a -v, and this should give you your version. Alright, now we'll be creating a React app and we'll be using the CRA utility of Facebook to create one. Now the CRA utility does save us a lot of work. So to create a React application, all you need to do is that you need to run these three commands to create and launch your first application. Now the first command is npx create React app followed by the name of your app. Now remember that npx come with npm with version 5 greater than 5.2. Alright, so now let's create a React application. So just open up the command prompt and run the command npx create React app followed by the name of your application. Now one particular naming restriction that I like to highlight, and that is you just cannot have uppercase letter inside of your app's name. You just need to have lowercase letters. Okay, so the name is going to be meta generator. So meta hyphen generator. And after this, hit enter, and it's going to take some amount of time to generate your React application, and by the time it does, you'll have to wait. Alright, so let's meanwhile download a code editor. So in this application, I'll be using Visual Studio Code. It is a really nice coding editor. It does come with a lot of features that will definitely come in handy when you're developing your application. Not only this one, but any sorts of application. It can be Python, .NET. It does come with a lot of features. Now download your install according to your needs. You can download it for Mac OS or Windows or Linux, so it depends what kind of system you're on. Alright, so download the installer. Now if you have any personal preference, for example maybe Sublime or Atom, then just feel free to use it, because at the end of the day we just need a code editor, so you can use anyone. So our application has successfully been installed now, and you might be able to see these 4 script commands that are namely our npm start, that is going to start our development server, and npm run build, that's going to serve the build production file. Now let's change directories into a meta generator. So just change directories to your meta generator. Alright, now we are inside of our meta generator. Now we'll be launching a VS Code instance of our application, that is a meta generator. So just do this code with a period, and it is going to launch a VS Code instance of application. Now needless to say that this is only going to work if you have VS Code installed. Now let's take a look at the folder structure of our application. So we are having this directory with the name node modules. So as the name suggests, this is going to contain the node packages that we have installed inside of our application. Okay, so inside this you might be able to see the Babel and .env. So this is all that the CRA utility has configured for us. Okay, so apart from these node modules, we're having this public folder, and inside this we're having certain files, namely the favicon.ico, index.html. So if you head into your index.html, you might be able to see that there are certain meta and link tags. This meta tag is going to contain the description of your application, of what this particular site is going to do or what it functions, as well as this title and the node no script tag and a div with id root. All right, and two logos and manifest.json. Okay, now let's take a look into our source directory, and you might be able to see the css files and javascript files and test runner files. Now inside this, you might be able to see this index.js file. So this is going to sit at the top of our application. Now whatever code is going to compile, you might see this id root, and if you recall that inside of our index.html, we are having this div with id root. So all the code that is going to be compiled up is going to be dumped up over here. All right, now after this, let's give this a first run. But before we do that, let's take a look into the package.json. So inside this package.json file, you might be able to see certain script commands and the dependencies that we have. So that are namely our React, React DOM, and React script. Now, this is only because we have used the CRA that we are getting this pre-installed for us. Otherwise, when creating a React application from scratch, you might have to manually install all of this. So now to start a development server, just open up the inbuilt terminal that you have over here. To do that, just click on this terminal or follow the shortcut that has appeared on the screen. Now to do that, just run the command npm start, and this should start a development server with localhost 3000 loaded into a browser. Alright, so this is what the CRA utility gives us, a spinning React logo along with two text. Alright, so now we'll do as this browser suggests us. We'll be making some changes inside the app.js file. So head inside of your VS Code, and inside this, get rid of this particular header over there. So alright, now get rid of this and instead have a h1 tag inside this, and we'll be having the text that states that it's working. Now hit save, and let's head back into our browser. So now you must see all that template has gone now. We are seeing our h1 text that's working. Now there are certain extensions that I'd like to suggest to you before we move any further. So head inside of your extensions marketplace, and inside this, the first extension that you'll need is the auto close tag. So search for auto close, and here it is. Now the name is self-explanatory what it does. So for example, if I just open my app.js file, and inside this, apart from this h1, I decided that I need a h2 or heading 2 tag. So you might see that this closing tag has auto generated for us. So this is what this auto close tag does. So install it. I have already installed this inside my system, so just install it. Apart from this auto close tag, you'll also be needing this auto rename tag. So search for this auto rename tag, and this is also self-sufficient. For example, at certain point of time, I decide that no, I do not want this to be a heading 2 tag, rather I want this to be a paragraph element. So I just change it to paragraph element, and the corresponding closing tag also changes itself to the paragraph element. So this is what the auto rename tag is going to do. Now there's this third extension that might come in handy, and that is your bracket pair colorizer. So it colorizes your bracket. As you can see that the corresponding brackets are having similar color, and if I decide that there are going to be more pair of brackets inside this, so they're going to have a similar color. Alright, now this ES7 code snippets. Now there are going to be instances inside of this particular course where you'll be needing to generate a boilerplate, and manually typing it can be quite cumbersome. For example, if I just want to create a functional component, then I could just run rafc, and this is going to create a functional component for me. Or if I decide that no, I want a class component, then just run rcc, and it is going to give you a class component. So yeah, they do come in handy, and they're having the code snippets for React, Redux, and React Native snippets. Apart from this, you'll also be needing this npm extension. So as it suggests that this extension supports running npm script defined in the package.json, and you just saw back then what those scripts were. They were namely the start, the build, run, and eject. Also, this npm IntelliSense might come in handy if you're using third-party libraries, as well as install this prettier code formatter. So this is going to help you to format your code. All you have to do is just press Ctrl Alt and F, and your code has been formatted for you. All right, so now let's make sure that it's default. Okay, so these are all about the extensions that you will need inside of this particular application. Now after this, let's create the components that we need. So now let's create the folder structure of our application. So the first one being is that we'll be having a components folder inside of our source directory. And apart from this components folder, we'll be having another folder with the name styles, and the third folder with the name generator. Alright, so now inside the first folder, that's a component, we'll be having three components. So the first one is going to be named generated meta tag. So .jsx. Apart from this, we'll be creating another component that's going to be of name meta tag form. So let's create that meta tag form .jsx, and the third component, that is alright. So it's supposed to be a component, not a folder. So let's create a component meta tag form .jsx. Alright, now the third component. Alright, so let's settle with these two. Alright, now after this components folder, we'll be creating our generator.js file inside of our generator.js. Alright, now after this, we'll be creating a styles file inside of our styles directory. So styles.css. Alright, so this is our folder structure. Now let's head into our app.js file. And at first, what we're going to do is that we'll be importing our styles. So let's get rid of this and import styles from our styles directory. So from our styles, we'll be importing our styles.css. Let's get rid of this app.css for now. And now there are certain files that we'll be using inside of this particular application, and those are namely our bootstrap as well as our React bootstrap. So let's import bootstrap and React bootstrap and hit enter. Alright, so to install that, we have to run npm install React bootstrap, not import, and bootstrap, and it's going to install these two packages inside of our application. Now these packages have been installed for us. Now if I just move into my package.json file, I might see that bootstrap as well as React bootstrap has been installed for me. Now if you have worked with bootstrap before, then you might know what's the next step, and that is we'll be moving into the top level of our application, that's our index.js, and we'll be importing the dist file. So import bootstrap dist css bootstrap .min.css. Alright, so now after this, let's close off this and start to create our app.js file. So so first of all, let's get rid of this entire app over here, and we'll be creating up a functional component. So to do that, we have installed the ES7 code snippets. So just run the command rafc, and this should give you your arrow functional component. Just out of personal preference, I will export it down here. So export default app. Now inside this particular application, we'll be importing certain files from our React bootstrap now. So let's import them. So import, we'll be importing the card component. So card, this is coming from our React bootstrap. card. All right. Now after this card, we'll be importing certain files from our React module as well. So those are basically hooks, the useState hook as well as the useEffect hook. All right. Now after this useState and useEffect hook, we'll be calling in our generated meta tag from our components folder. So let's do it. So import generated meta tag, and this is coming from our components folder, components generated meta tag. All right. Now after this, we'll be importing our meta tag form. So let's import that. Import meta tag form, and this is coming from our components, and from components meta tag form. All right. Now after importing our generated meta tag and meta tag form, we are almost done. Now there's a function that we'll be creating inside of generator file, so we'll be importing it as well, but for now let's just leave it like that. Okay, so this is all the imports that we need. Now let's head inside of our app and let's start to configure it. So this is going to have a state, but since this is not a class component, therefore you'll be leveraging the benefit of the use state hook. So let's create the states. So constant, these are going to be namely meta tags, and a setter function for this, that's set meta tags. This is going to be equal to use state, and inside this the initial value is going to be an empty string, and after this another constant that's going to be meta tags collection, and set meta tag collection. This is going to be equal to use state, and inside this is going to stay up an object. So we'll be having an object inside this that's going to have a key title and a value to it as an empty string and description. And this too is going to have an empty string and a keyword after this. So keywords, this is going to be an empty string again, and after this what we're going to have is author, and author is going to be an empty string again, and after author the URL and image URL. So URL and the image URL. Now let's create the structure of our application. So we will be having a div of class name app container. So give this div a class name of app container. All right, so now inside this div what we'll be having is, let's first remove this app over here, and instead inside this div we'll be having a title. So let's give this a title, and this title is going to be a meta tag generator. All right, so right after this title we'll be having card. As you can see, we have imported card from React Bootstrap now. So card, and now inside this card we'll be passing it a style prop. So give this a style, and this style is going to be equal to 100% with 100%. So with 100%. So this is a styling of our card. Now this card is not a self-closing card, rather it is going to have a closing tag, and inside this card we'll be having a card body. So let's create a card body now. So card period body, and inside this card body we'll be having a h1 tag. So h1 tag, and this is going to be a class name. So give this a class name as well. Meta tag title, meta hyphen tag hyphen title. Now inside this h1 we'll be having the text meta tag generator. Alright, so this is our h1 tag. Now right beneath this h1 tag we'll be having or calling a meta tag form. So call in your meta tag form that we have imported right above and pass it some props. And those props are mainly our meta tag collection as well as set meta tag collection. So pass this meta tag collection. This is going to be equal to meta tag collection, meta tag collections. All right, as well as the setup function for this. So set meta tag collections. This is going to be equal to set meta tag collections. All right. So this is a meta tag form now. Now we are having these form now. After this, what we're going to do is that we'll be creating a meta tag form as well as a meta tag generate meta tag. So now we have successfully created this app.js, but yeah, there is some configuration that is still left that we'll be doing once we are done with our generator component. So for now, let's just leave it like this and save. Now let's head to our generate meta tag.js. All right, so let's head to our meta tag form now and close this. So this is going to be a functional component. So just run the command rafce. So this is a functional component. Now let's import the things that we need inside of our application, and those are mainly our form, row, and column from React Bootstrap. So let's import our form, row, and column. This is coming from our React Bootstrap. React Bootstrap. The name is form, row, and column. Form, row, as well as column. All right. So this is the data that we are fetching from our React Bootstrap. Now after this, will be getting certain data inside this. So let's destructure them right over here. So those are mainly, if you might recall, from our app.js, what we are sending over here. So from our app.js, we are sending our meta tag collections as well as set meta tag collections. So meta tag collections and set meta tag collections. So this is the data that we are destructuring over here. Now after this, we'll be creating a method over right beneath this. So the method is going to be const handle input change. This is going to take up a name as well as a value. Now this is going to be another function. All right, so this handle input change, let's let new tags. This is going to be equal to, we will be spreading our entire meta tag collections. So use the spread operator and spread your entire meta tag collections and store it inside the new tags. And the new tags dot name. So new tags name is going to be equal to our value that we have gained. All right, so this is our handle input change. Now after this, let's create a form. So convert this div into a form, and since we are having auto rename tag, therefore it is going to happen. Now let's erase this, and inside the form we are going to have a row. So let's create a row first, and okay, so this is the row that we have created. Now inside this row we'll be having a column. So create a column, and this column is going to have xs of equals to 12 as well as md of equals to 6. So you can check out these layout inside of the React Bootstrap documentation. Now inside this column, we'll be having form groups. So let's create these form groups that we need. So the form group, and inside this form group, we'll passing in the prop that is row as well as class name that's going to be equal to MB-3, and after this MB-3, this is going to have a control ID as well. So control ID, and this control ID is going to be equal to form basic. Now let's create the label for this. So inside this form group, we'll be having a label first. So form dot label. Now this label is going to have the text website name or page title. So give this a. So here is our label of our form title. Now after this, let's control this form. So give this form a form self-closing control. Let's pass in certain props in this, and this prop is going to be of type text. So give this a type of text, and after this text, give this a placeholder as well. So placeholder of enter a website to title. So enter website title. Alright, so we are giving this type property as well as a placeholder, and now let's give this the onChange method that we created. So onChange, this is going to be equal to. This is going to take up an event, and once it does, then handle input change, and inside this pass in the name as well as the value that we are getting. So that name is title, and the value is e.target.title, e.target.value. Alright, so this is our form control. Now after this, let's head out of our column and create another column. This column 2 is going to have an access of 12 and a MD of 6, but this time, so MD 6, just like the one above. Now inside this column, we'll be having similar fields. The first one is going to be a form group. So let's create a form group. And this form group is going to have certain properties that we're going to pass to it. So that is going to be class name. So let's give this a class name that's going to be equal to MB-3, and after that a control ID. So control ID, and this control ID is form basic email. Now let's close this. So now inside this form group, we'll be having again a form label and form control. So form label, this is going to be website address, and after this form label, let's have a form control. So form period control, self-closing one. All right, now inside this form control, we'll be passing into data that this is going to be of type that's going to be equal to the URL. So URL, and after this type, give this a placeholder as well. So placeholder, this placeholder is going to be equal to enter website URL, and after this placeholder, what we're going to do is that we'll be giving this an onChange as specified above. So onChange, this is going to take up an event, and once it does, then handle change input, as well as pass in with two properties that are mainly okay. So this should be an event, not a 3. Pass in with the properties. So are we specifying it correctly? Handle input change. Okay, so it's handle input change, and give this the name as well as the property or the value. So the name is URL, so URL, and the value is e.target.value. So this is one for other form group. Now let's head out of this particular column as well and create another column. So right after this column, we'll be creating another column. So now right after this, we'll be getting out of this particular column and we'll be creating one more column inside this. So let's create one more column. And this column is going to have an XS of about 12, as well as we'll also give this an MD of 12. All right, so now let's close this. All right, so inside this column we'll be having, as usual, the form group as well as form label and form control. So let's create a form group. So form dot group. All right, so this group is going to have a class name of margin bottom 3. So class name of MB hyphen 3 and a control ID of this control ID is going to be equal to form basic email. Now let's close this. Now inside this form group we'll also be having a form label. So let's create a form dot label. Now this label is going to hold the label for website meta description. So website meta description. All right, now after this we'll be having a form control. So let's create a form control now. So inside this form control we'll be having certain props. So this particular form control is going to be a text area. So this form control as text area, and after this text area we'll be having a type of text. So the type is going to be equal to text. All right, so now after this type of text, give this a placeholder as well. So placeholder. Now this placeholder is going to be enter the website metadata. So enter the website's meta description. All right, now let's close this. It's a self-closing tag. This also needs a on change, so let's give this a on change as well. So on change is going to be equal to this is going to take up an event, and after that we'll make sure that on change on input. So what have we created right above it? We have created handle input change. All right, so handle input change. All right, so inside this we'll be passing it the event target value and description. So description as well as event target value, e.target.value. All right, so this is our third group that is going to hold the website's meta description. Now let's come out of this particular column and we'll be making one more column inside this, and this is going to be for website meta keywords. So let's do this, and one more column. This column 2 will be holding the excess of 12 and MD of 6. Now let's close this, and inside this will be having form group. So form dot group, and inside this group we'll be having a class name, and this class name is going to be equal to mouse button margin bottom 3. And after this margin bottom 3, what we're going to do is that we'll give this a control ID. So control ID, this control ID is going to be form basic email. So form basic email. Now let's close this. Okay, so this should be inside the quotations. All right, now this is a form group. It also needs a closing tag, so we'll give it one. And inside this, we'll be having the text that states that website meta keyword. All right, so this is a form group. Now, outside of this, what you're going to do is that. Okay, so it's supposed to be form basic email, not double M's. And after this form basic email, we'll be having a form label as usual. So form dot label, and inside this label, we'll be having the text. All right, seems like I did a mistake over here. So we do not need this. This is going to be self-closing. All right, inside this form label, we'll be having the text form group. Form group, all right, website meta keywords. Meta keywords. All right, now after this, we'll be having the form control. So let's give this the form control now. So form dot control, and inside this control, we're passing it with the props that are going to be mainly for our meta keywords. So this is going to be for as text area. Apart from this text area, what we are going to do is that we are going to give this a type. So this type is going to be also equals to text, and after this type of text, we'll also make sure that it has. So now let's create a generator.js file. So move into this and create a constant. This is going to be known as tab spacing, and create a 3 spaced string over here. So tab spacing, and this is going to be equal to a string with 3 spaces in them, like 1, 2, and 3. All right, now after this, create a new line. So const new line, this is going to be equal to a /n. All right, now after this, we'll be creating up a arrow function. So create a const format line. This is going to take a parameter that's going to be called as line. Put an arrow inside this, and after this, return. Now we'll be using the template strings. So a $, and inside this, the tab spacing first. So tab spacing, that is containing 3 spaces inside it. After it, we'll just place the line, so a $, again, and the line that we are getting, and after that, the new line. So $, again, and this time the new line. All right, so this is a format line function. Now after this format line function, we'll be creating another function that's going to be called as generate meta tags, and that is going to generate the meta tags for us. So let's export constant. So this is exportable, generate meta tag. Now this is going to take some metadata. Now this metadata is going to be, all right, this is an arrow function as well. And after this, let's destructure the metadata. So constant title. So basically this metadata is same as what we created over here. So we'll be passing this particular data from here only: title, description, keywords, author, URL, and image URL. So this is what we're going to destructure over here. So title, and after that description, and after description the keywords, and after keywords the author and URL. Author and URL. This is going to be equal to metadata. All right, now after this, let generate meta tags. This is going to be equal to, again we'll be using the template strings, so head tag, and after this the new line character. So head tag, and after this place a new line, and that particular new line is a new line. All right, so new line. Okay, so now we are good with this. And after this, what you're going to do is that we'll be adding title. So first comes the head and then comes the title. So again, what you're going to do is that generate meta tags. This is going to be equal to, now we'll be calling a format line. So format line, I feel like as if there's a spelling mistake over here. So it's format, not format. So let's just select both of these format lines. So select this and press Ctrl D. So now what you're doing is what we call it as multi-cursor editing. So to do that, just select the text that you want to select again and again, and keep on pressing Ctrl plus D to the point of time that you select the similar text, and then you can edit them. So we want to edit the format line. All right. So now to exit this mode, just press escape and you're out of it. Now inside this format line, what we're going to do is that we'll be passing in the title. So brackets and again template string. So we'll be passing in the title. So first the title tag, and inside this title tag we'll be passing in the title that we are getting. So title. All right, now after this what you're going to do is that close this, and after this we'll be adding the website's description. That means the description of what our website does. So again, generate meta tag. Now this is always going to be an add-on. So generate meta tags is equals to generate meta tags plus format line, but just we'll be using a shorthand technique. So just get rid of this and add a plus sign over here. So now we're good. Now after this we'll be adding the website description. So for that purpose, let's again call in generate meta tag and a plus sign and equals to, and now again we'll be calling a format line. So format line, but this time we'll be passing in the meta name as well as the content description. So inside this format line, again use the template string, and inside this template string pass in the meta key, meta tag, and inside this meta tag the name that is equal to description. And after this description, let's close this. So we are passing in the description now as well as content. So now this content is the description that we are getting, or that we have destructured over there. So a dollar sign, and inside this the description. All right, so this is a meta tag. So now after this generate meta tags, that is for dedicated to our meta tag. After this we'll be creating another one. So generate meta tags, and this time we'll be formatting the content that is going to be equal to keywords. So add sign and equals to format line, and inside this time we'll be passing a template string again, and the website meta keywords. So let's pass in the keywords. So meta tag, and inside this meta tag we'll be giving this a name that's going to be equal to keywords. All right, so these are the keywords, and after these keywords we'll pass in the content. Okay, so this should be inside this content, and this is going to be equal to a template. This dollar sign, just place in the keywords that we have destructured up there. So keywords, and now let's close this meta tag. All right, so now we are adding to our generate meta tags our keywords also. So after this, the next is the turn for our, we are done with the title and the description and the keywords, our author as well as our URL. So after this, let's add the same to our generate meta tags, plus sign equals to format line, and inside this be equal to author, and after this author, so I just forgot, okay, double quotations. Now we're good. So this name author, and the content, so the content is equal to, again we'll be using the dollar sign, and after this dollar sign pass in the author's name, so the author. So this is our meta tags add-on for our author name. Now the last one on our list is the URL. So generate meta tags plus equals to format line. This time we'll be passing in the final one, and that is our URL. So this is again going to be template string, but this time we'll be having a link tag instead. So link rel, and inside this is the canonical link. So canonical link, and after this rel, pass this an href. This href is going to be equal to, again, a dollar sign, and inside this pass in the URL. And now let's close this. After this we'll be adding robot text, so right beneath this add generate meta tags, add a addition sign and equals to a format line. So inside this format line we'll be using the meta tag again, so template string, and inside this the meta tag, and this meta tag is going to have the props of name. This is going to be equal to the robots, so robots. And after this robots, what you're going to do is that we'll be creating the content. So content, this content is going to be equal to index comma follow. Now let's close this. All right, so this is a add-on for the robots text. Now after this we'll be adding the logo URL, and we'll be finishing the meta tags. Therefore we'll be closing the head. So now what you're going to do is that now let's put generate meta tags. This is going to be a add-on equals to the website logo. So in here we'll be passing in the logo, so logo, but we haven't created the logo function for our generator.js. Likewise we have created the format line, so we are also in requirement to create a similar function for our social media links. So now let's first create that particular method. So right up above we'll be creating another function, and this is going to be equal to export const generate social media links, generate social media links, social media, or rather let's just have this social meta tags. All right, so this seems fine now, and this is going to take some metadata which we're going to pass to it. So metadata, and this metadata is going to be the data that will be transferring from here that we have generated right over there. All right, so inside this function that generate social media tags, what you're going to do is that we'll be destructuring the metadata. So the data that we're destructuring over here is mainly going to be the title, description, URL, and image URL. So that's what we're going to do over here. So create a const, and inside this we'll be having the title, the description, and after this URL we'll be having the image URL. This is going to be equal to the metadata. All right, now after this we'll be creating a let. So let social metadata, Alright, so right after this, what we're going to do is that we'll be again calling in our social metadata, and we'll be giving it an add-on that is going to be equal to, again pass in the format line, and inside this time we'll be giving a comment. So in HTML you might see how comments work. So a greater than symbol and a not symbol and two hyphens, and we'll be putting up the text essential. So these are social meta tags. Now we are also in requirement to close this. So again double hyphen and a less than symbol. Alright, so now we'll be adding the essential social media meta tags. So right beneath this, what you're going to do is that. So alright, now let's add title to our social metadata. So social metadata plus equals to format line again. So format line, and inside this we're going to pass it with a template string that's going to be holding a metadata or meta tag. This is going to hold a property, and this property is going to be equal to OG semi title. And after this, what we're going to do is that we'll be giving it a content that's going to be equal to title. So content is going to be equal to a dollar sign, and inside this we'll be having title. Alright, so this is a social metadata in which we have added the title now. Now after this, let's close this. Okay, so now we are good with this. Now after this, we'll be adding description that's going to look similar to this. So social metadata plus equals to format line, and inside this we'll be having a template string and again a metadata that's going to hold up a property. This property is going to be equal to description. So OG description, OG description, and after this description, what we're going to do is that we're also giving it the content. So let's give this a content now. This content is going to be equal to, let's put up a dollar sign and curly braces, and here we're going to put up description. So let's place description over here. So alright, now after this we'll be adding the images. So social meta tag is going to be plus equals to format line, and inside this line what we're going to do is that we'll be giving the template string and again metadata. This metadata is going to have a property. This property is going to be equal to OG image. So put up OG image. This OG image is going to, after this OG image, we're going to give this a content value, content prop. This content prop is again going to be equal to a dollar sign, and inside this pass in the image URL. So after this image URL, we'll be adding the URL to it. So again, we're going to do the same thing. So let's just come over here, and again social media metadata plus equals to format line, and inside this format line again we'll be using the template string and a meta tag. So this meta tag is going to be having a property. This property is going to be equal to OG URL, and now comes the turn for the content value. So we're going to give this the content value. Now I just saw that I forgot to close this, so let's close all of this. The reason is that they are inside the template string, therefore we are not even also getting those linting errors. Alright, so after this URL, give this a content that's going to be equal to a dollar sign inside this and curly braces, and inside this curly braces pass in the URL. So this is a social metadata. Now we have added the metadata of title, description, and after description the image URL as well as the URL. Now after this what we're going to do is that let's come right down here, and now we'll be passing in the Twitter data. So add social metadata. So social metadata again, and a plus sign and equals to, this is going to be equal to format line, and inside this format line what we're going to do is that we'll be passing in the meta tag again within the template string. So meta, and this meta is going to have a property again. This property is going to be equal to, so inside this give this a template string which it already has now. Okay, all right, so this property is going to be equal to Twitter card, and after this we'll be also giving this a content. So inside this Twitter card we'll be having a content now. This content is going to be equal to a dollar sign, and inside this we'll be passing in the image URL. Now after this what we're going to do is that we'll be adding the metadata again. So social metadata, this is going to be equal to plus equals to format line, and inside this format line what we're going to do is that we'll be again using a template string and meta property. This property is going to be equal to OG site name, site underscore name, and after this the content property content, this is going to be equal to dollar sign template, and inside this pass in the title. All right, now after this what we're going to do is that we'll be adding another meta tag. So social media metadata is going to be equal to plus equals to format line, and inside this format line the meta tag. So meta tag and the property, this property is going to be equal to Twitter image alternate, and after this the content, this content is going to be equal to so we are done with our social meta tags. Now after this we are going to return this, so return social metadata. All right, so now we are all done with our social. So now after this let's head back into the previous segment that we are creating. So this is the one which we commented back then. So now let's uncomment this, and instead we'll be generating our meta tags, which is going to be equal to generate social media tags. So generate social media tags, and inside this we'll be passing it with two parameters. That's going to be metadata and generate meta tags. So pass in the metadata as well as generate meta tags, and inside this what you're going to do is that, so we'll be getting a data back. Now after this uh, let's close off the head and return our generate meta tags. So generate meta tags is going to be equal to plus equals to again, now let's close off the head now. So this is the head's opening tag that we created right over here inside of our this. So this is the opening tag, and this one is the closing one. Now after this let's export our or return our generate meta tags. So return generate meta tags. Alright, so now we have created our generator.js. So now we are done with almost all the components. The only component that remains is a generate meta tag component. So this is going to be an arrow functional component. So just run the command rafc, and this should give you a React functional component. So if I just run rafce, so this is going to give me my React functional component. All right, now we are getting some data from our app.js. So we'll be destructuring it over here. So meta tags is the data that we're getting. So meta tags. All right. Now inside this div, let's give this a class name. This is going to be margin top -2. Now inside this generate meta tag, instead of this text, we'll be having h3 tag. So let's create h3 tag, and this h3 tag is going to contain the text meta tags generated. So meta tags generated. All right. Now after this h3 tag, we're going to have a small element over here, and this small element is going to have a class name of text danger. So give this a class name of text danger. All right, now close this. Inside this small, we are going to have the text select and copy. All right, now I need you to come out of this h3 and create another div of class name generated meta tags. So div of class name generated meta tags. All right, now let's close this, and inside this div we're going to have a pre tag. So pre element, and inside this pre we are going to have a code. So this is the code where our code is going to be rendered. So inside this code we'll be rendering our meta tags. So over here, let's render our meta tags. All right, so we have successfully created our generate meta tags as well, but there's a bit of configuration that is left inside of our app.js so that we can fully leverage the benefits of all the hard work that we have done over here. So move back into app.js. Now we'll be adding a use effect hook over here. So put up a use effect hook, and this use effect hook is going to be rendered the first time, and any time and every time there's a change inside of our meta tag collections. So pass it meta tag collections. All right. Now what do we want inside of this use effect to happen is that at first we'll be importing our generate meta tags from our generate meta tag component. So if I just move into my meta generator, so generate meta tag is the component that we created over here. So this is the component that will be importing inside of our app.js. So let's import it first. So generate meta tag. So let's import generate meta tag. So if I just move back into my generator, so here we are having this. Let's close this. Generate meta tag tags. All right, so let's import this generate meta tags from our generator. All right, now inside this, what you're going to do is that we'll be setting up the set meta tags, and we'll be passing inside this the generate meta tag, and inside this we'll be passing the meta tag collections. All right, so this is what is happening inside of our use effect hook. Now if I just scroll down a bit, so we see that we are having a div of class name app container, a title of meta tag generator, a card body, and meta tag form, as well as we are sending the data via help of props. Now at the end of the card body, we are also in requirement to import our generate meta tag. So let's do that, because we want to see the generated metadata. For that purpose, we are at the moment we are just taking the input, but this component is going to help us to output the component that we have created. So generate meta tag and pass it the meta tags. So meta tags is going to be equal to meta tags. All right, so now we are transferring the meta tags as well. So now hit save, and if you just move back into generate meta tag, you might see that this is the data that we are destructuring over here. So now we have successfully created our application. Now the only piece of code that remains is that you need to copy the CSS properties that has been provided to you along with this course and paste them over here, because we are already importing this inside of our styles. And once it's done, your application is complete.